Well, Steve Jobs has died. He was just 56 and he'd had a long battle with cancer, but my word, what a remarkable career he had. Jobs founded Apple with two friends after dropping out of college back in 1976. A year later, it got its breakthrough. The Apple II became one of the first successful personal computers. Apple went public in 1980 at $22 a share. And in 1984, Jobs launched the Macintosh computer, which went on to become the first commercially successful personal computer to use a graphical interface and a mouse. But it wasn't high fives and backslaps throughout his career. In 1985, Jobs resigned after a power struggle with CEO John Sculley. After leaving Apple, Jobs bought George Lucas's computer graphics shop and renamed it Pixar. Toy Story went on to gross more than $360 million and was nominated for 3 Oscars. By 1996, Apple was in dire financial straits and rehired Jobs. He took over as CEO 7 months later. By January 1998, he'd returned Apple to profit and launched the iMac, the first of many iProducts. Apple dived into the music industry in 2001, launching iTunes and the iPod. In 2003, 2 years later, Jobs was diagnosed with cancer. In 2007, Jobs launched the iPhone and announced Apple was dropping computer from its name. Shares closed at a record high. 2010 saw Jobs' next big innovation, the iPad. Apple sold more than 7 million in the first quarter. For more on this, let's talk to Melissa Chau. She's research manager at IDC and specialises in the mobile phone markets and media tablet tracker programs. Melissa, good to talk to you. What will be Steve Jobs' enduring legacy?
I mean, what he's really brought to tech is, I guess, a humanistic view of how we look at phones and how, well, tablets even as well. Previously, when you look at a lot of technology, including phones, you really had to learn the technology and figure out how to use those things. I think what Steve Jobs and Apple has managed to do is bring it back the other direction. It works in the way that a human might think, might work, and that's really one of the key reasons why it's been so successful.
And what is it about the man himself that managed to create and build up to one of the biggest companies on the planet?
Well, there's several parts of it, and I mean, his attention to detail and, I guess, ability to attract a lot of talent into his sphere. It's certainly not only him that's made Apple a success, but he's really been able to bring in all these other, board members and executives, I guess, who really can buy into his vision, are willing to work towards his vision.
I suppose the true test now is what happens next with Apple. How confident are you that Apple will continue to go from strength to strength as it did under Steve Jobs? Or without that influence, is there a sort of feeling among analysts, among experts, that Apple may just become another tech company?
Well, there certainly is a mixed feeling about this. On one hand, I think that Jobs has really left Apple in a fairly good position in that he's got all of his, ducks in a row for how the next couple of years will probably shape up. I guess always the question is, after those, say, 2 years, how is Apple going to respond to new challenges, new competitors, new innovations?
The design, of course, we know was revolutionary. I'm wondering about the sort of things that actually go inside the Mac computers and the iPhones and the iPads. How revolutionary are the working parts, the computers themselves, rather than the design?
Well, none of the, I guess, components, hardware components, were anything that were too revolutionary. A lot of these parts inside are all things that you have found in other computers. I think it's what he's done to edit them down and combine them with the services, combine them in a way that are easy to use, that are intuitive to use. That was kind of the winning formula.
And how have competitors responded to what Apple has been doing over the past few years? It always seems to be everyone is trying to catch Apple.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, if you look at how the phone market was a few years ago, you would see a whole wide range of different looking phones, whereas nowadays everything looks like an iPhone. That is where the competition has been sitting on. They've also been looking at, how can we beat them on hardware, have, faster processors, bigger cameras, bigger screens. I mean, that's the kind of area that there are competitors like Samsung or LG, HTC that are trying to edge out Apple on. But I guess where Apple's strength will continue to be is, how do these services get displayed on an iPad and iPhone that are different from some of the services out there right now.
What do you think Steve Jobs would have been most proud of? The inventions that he came up with, the technology that was used?
Well, given that I'm from the mobile phone field, I would definitely say the iPhone was one of the big ones. It really has had a profound effect on how people have used or consider a smartphone, not just most of us techies out there, but even, grandmothers. And I continue to hear stories about how this is the first phone that people of, an older generation also can connect to. And I think that is an endearing legacy.
Melissa Chau, we have to leave it there. Research Manager at IDC. Thanks for joining us live from Singapore here on Bloomberg.